And we're back with hour 3 of Cam and Company. Cameron Gray, guess what?
What?
Guess what?
Yes.
And that's Lars. Hi, Lars.
Hello.
Guess what? This is our last hour.
It's our last hour of the week.
Free at last.
Who do you
free at
think's
last.
more excited, the listeners or me and you?
The listeners.
Okay.
They're ecstatic. We're happy. They're ecstatic. Thanks for putting
Come on,
up.
it was a fun week.
Thanks for putting up with us all week.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Cam will be back Monday, tanned, rested, ready to go.
Tan fit, ready to go.
And, yeah, we'll have it's going to be starting next week when he gets back and all the vacations are over. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up in the fall. And some of it Lars will actually be talking about, but it's going to be very cool cool few months.
Yep.
I'm excited about it.
Very good. And speaking of good, great segue, by the way.
Dude, I'm the king of the segue.
Poor Lars, who used to work here, and now he's a media mogul
Why
for
poor
the NRL.
Lars? He's probably better off over there.
No, I mean, poor Lars came out here just to hang out, and of course we grabbed him and brought him in.
I used to be the guy that would sit back there in the back room,
Eat pizza.
eat
Wait, the
pizza,
back- you're talking
fielding
about
the calls.
the Jamie
Well, actually,
Cam
yeah,
room?
the back room over there,
That room?
where it looked nothing near as good as that for me. I'll tell you, my back room had nowhere near that
Yeah,
type of
you-
accessories.
You didn't have Jamie Cam?
No,
Sorry.
not at all. But it was way back in the day. It wasn't in HD. Didn't have all these great cameras and this great setup that you guys do right now. And I'm telling you, it's just every time I walk in here, I'm astounded.
Yeah, it was quite a move. We physically had to move from our other room and move in here because going to 16 by 9 and HD, the room we were in was so small you couldn't even get a wide shot of the entire room. Now here we've added the BAM as we
BAM
like to call
cam.
it, yes, and everything else. So it's. Yeah, Lars, you were here back when we were in the little room in the back.
Yeah, and I got out just in time so I didn't have to help move any of this stuff over here. That was the perfect part of the plan.
You lazy bum.
Awesome. Well, Lars, you just got back. You're not lazy anymore. So you thought you were going to have an easy job over there. You spent like 82 days on the road with NRA.
Let me tell you, when I worked for NRA News, I think in 1 year we'd maybe go on the road 4 or 5 times.
Right.
We're up into August right now. I've already been on the road 13 times for NRA. From the various gun shows, the SHOT Show, the annual meeting, open range day, some of the stuff with Vanessa, and of course, just recently
Explain
I got
who
back
Vanessa
from
is.
Vanessa Ross with the Disabled Shooting Services for competitive shooting.
Speaking of explaining,
Yes.
just so folks understand, we have the Isle Report with Alexa Fritz and Rachel Parsons. They're media liaisons for ILA, for the legislative side. Lars works on the program side.
Right.
Over
I
there.
talk about the programs, some
Right.
of the fun stuff. If you've got a youth hunter education clinic going on, a Women on Target event, youth programs, law enforcement division, anything like that, anything on the non-political side, that's what we take care of.
Yeah, and it's summer, and summer's huge busy for you guys. Bianchi, Camp Perry, and what you were just, besides NRA events, you were just at the POMA, the Professional Outdoor Media Association.
Talk about POMA. Tell
Right.
us about that.
This year was the 5th anniversary of the Professional Outdoor Media Association Conference. It's basically a gathering of outdoor writers, whether it be hunters, fishers, or talking about hunting or fishing or hiking or anything to do with the outdoors overall. And you get together and we just go over some of the latest trends in media, some of the different things that they can do to try to make sure we're right on the edge of what the technology is offering and share a few of our secrets, maybe lend a few ideas, and get together and have a good old time.
So what you came from? You came from one event, stopped by Camp Perry. You're back here now.
Well, I didn't stop by Camp Perry.
Well,
I pulled the last leg of the overall Camp Perry race. I was lucky this year that everyone else really pitched in and got involved. With Karen went in and took care of the handgun section of the media relations for us. Danielle took care of the small bore 3 position. And Kyle took care of the small bore prone and the high power section. And that just unfortunately left the long range high power for me. And I love those guys. Don't take that the wrong way. When I say unfortunately, it's just I really enjoyed my time there with some of the small bore shooters as well. And it was a heck of a championship that they had this year, I'll tell you.
Well, Lars, I'm going to give you a little tip here.
A little tip?
Inside baseball.
Yes.
Okay, don't tell anybody this, but the plan right now, and I'm the guy who makes the plan, is we're gonna
You really are the man with the plan.
we're gonna take Cam and company out to Camp Perry during small bore next year.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the great things about small bore out there, You have friends, you have families, you have spectators. You're going to have a whole bunch of people to pick from. It won't just be the shooters and some of the vendors. You're going to have a great bunch of people, and it's a nice range of teenagers up until 70 to 80-year-old shooters out there.
Yeah, and what we've tried to do I've tried to do a series of first under NRA President John Ziegler was the first time we broadcast from Camp Perry. Now, this year, under Ron Schmeitz, he's so plugged in, and he's from Raton. We went out to Whittington Center for the first time. So this will be the first time we got out for small bore. So that's my plan for next year.
Right, and don't let me go through and sound as if I'm stubbing my guys from High Power. There were some really great guys. One of my favorite people out there, Gus from Augusta, Georgia, 88 years old. He's been shooting out there in Camp Perry since the 60s, I believe. Heck of a guy, and really nice. He sat there. He actually remembered me from last year, which I was astounded with. You have a couple of the female shooters out there. We met Annette, who she has a little blog out there called the 30 Cal Gal. Nice shooter, great shooter. She's only been doing it for about 6 years now, but is really coming along well. Sherry Gallagher, who was last year's national long-range high-power champ.
I actually got to interview her. Very, very cool lady.
Oh, yeah. She's a great, great girl and a heck of a soldier. Just got promoted to sergeant.
And she also is the focus of the new Sports Illustrated article that they did about Camp Perry.
Right.
And she
well,
was the first person they talked about.
Right. Last year, Sports Illustrated came out to Camp Perry to talk about the overall, the long-range high-power and what it takes to be a shooter on that line. And the reporter got to sit down, talk with a number of the shooters, talk with Praz, who's basically a head muckety-muck when it comes to, well, not the head, but one of the head muckety-mucks when it comes to shooting for the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit. And he got to really understand what it takes to be a shooter, all the different things that are involved, from the wind to the heat to just the way the grass is blowing. And it was really great to sit down and read the piece that Chris wrote. The author of the piece, his name is Chris Ballard out of California. And as Praz said, it's a nice primer for those of the uninitiated. And it really went in and talked about some of the people and showed you an inside look of what is our baseball.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing for us to do, Lars. That's what we're all about, is getting the uninitiated initiated. We all know this stuff. I always talk about this. We have to make sure when we're talking about, high power and small bore, we can't break it down every time, but a lot of people, especially people listening on Sirius XM, they're like, what does that mean? So part of what we do here is not only covering the stories of the day in the Second Amendment, but it's giving much needed coverage to great events. I mean, you'd mentioned out at Camp Perry, there's one gentleman out there, and help me with his name. He runs the trophy room out there.
Pierce.
What an awesome guy. Now, first of all, those trophies are only all on display one time a year at one place there at Camp Perry. So,
every now and then you get lucky and you can come by NRA headquarters, and they'll have some of those out on display,
right,
but they're never out in full regalia like that.
They truck them out, and they're beautiful, and put them out there. So it's it's a hidden treasure out there. But this guy is a treasure as well. He read in, I guess, an American Rifleman magazine, an ad for being a volunteer. You mentioned that years and years and years. And one story after another, people have been doing this. He's been coming out there every year for like 40 years or something. And he saw it, and it's just, and now people, you see them, they come to events like Camp Perry or Bianchi or whatever, MPS, they plan their summer travels around that because it's summertime. Most people are trying to take a vacation.
That is
That's
actually
their vacation.
Yeah, that's what a number of people do. Their vacation is coming up to Camp Perry, and it's not just the competitors that do it. It's also the referees, the range officers, the block officers, the line judges. Everybody comes up there, and they will take a week or 2 or 3 out and donate their time so they can come up there and just be a part of what is the Super Bowl of shooting sports.
And it's amazing, too. You see one story after another. Now, here's a great story. I just learned this year. Mm-hmm. My sister-in-law's parents, they're from Washington State. I didn't even know this till this year. They spent their honeymoon many years ago. He's been an NRA Life member since when it was $100 to be a Life member, by the way. And he was shooting at Camp Perry. They spent their honeymoon at Camp Perry, one of the little old huts. So he was shooting national matches. So she went along with him, and that's where they spent their honeymoon at Camp Perry, where he was competing in the national matches.
Well, if you remember, one of my favorite stories from working at NRA News, there was the guy who was actually born at Camp Perry. Mm-hmm. One of the vendors.
What?
And what was his name?
Perry.
Perry.
Perry,
Called
yeah.
him
They
Perry.
call him Perry?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's a very cool story.
You're not going to be too much identified with Camp Perry. You're born there, and your name is Perry.
No.
But we got a bunch of these stories, great information about what was going on for the past 6 weeks or so at Camp Perry on NRAblog.com. You go there, you can catch up either just straight off of the front page, or you can hit the different tags of the Perry. If you want to look at small bore, if you want to look at pistol, if you want to look at the high power, it's all there waiting for you. And if I hadn't said that, then Danielle and Puggle would have had me for lunch on Monday.
All right, so you talked about what you've been doing in the past. Talk about what's coming up. We were talking earlier. It's how it's going to be a
favorite.
busy fall.
Oh,
What's coming up?
The big thing, the big daddy.
It's huge.
NRA's Law Enforcement Division, which is in the middle of its celebrating the 50th anniversary, is having the National Police Shooting Championships in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The big question is this year, there's a lot of different things going on. We have sitting back wondering if Phil Hemphill is going to come up and challenge, maybe go for the 11th championship. Robert Vadez and the rest of the Border Patrol on there coming up, wants to see if he can reclaim the title. He's got one of his teammates out there that was vying for it as well. We got new shooting teams like last year. Another great story there. Last year, San Antonio Police Department had their shooting team, came out to NPSC, only had things organized. It took them up until the very last minute. They actually got the shirts the day before they left.
Oh, cool.
They all jumped in an RV. They came out to Albuquerque, and they stayed in the RV right there by the range the whole time. They just wanted to be up there to be part of the National Police Shooting Championship. And I'll tell you, if you're a law enforcement officer, you should be out there. If you're not sure about how good a shot you are, if you're going to be able to win or not, don't worry about the winning. You come out there, you meet the people, you learn some techniques. You go over there and you'll talk to somebody like Captain Phil Hemphill, and believe me, everybody's more than willing to come up and talk to you. But you talk to Phil and you're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, what's going wrong? Why aren't I hitting the target? And he's going to go off and he's going to show you 2 or 3 little things that's going to make your shot so much better. And that itself is worth the trip out to Albuquerque.
Now, tell us about, I hadn't been there before. You guys, of course, have been there before. Tell us about what it's like when these men and women get together as a group and they get to talk about stories and they get to help each other out and they get to share ideas back and forth. Beyond the competition, how important is that to these law enforcement officers?
Well, for me, when I sit in and I'm standing in the background while, say, Captain Hemphill or Robert Vadez is out there talking to some of the shooters and they're asking them questions, it's actually quite intimidating. Because while I'll throw a shot at a paper target every now and then, I'm nowhere near the shot that they are and don't have anywhere the type of experience that they do. And they start talking about just the idea of how you draw the gun and then where the fingers are placed throughout the pistol, whether it's on the side, do you have your thumb on the trigger or on the hammer itself? Is it coming out? Are you shooting a pistol versus a revolver versus a hand? It's just all sorts of different intricacies that I'm way over my head with when they start going. But they love it. They sit back and they hold court and they will stay until the last person goes. It's like one of those great things you hear about your favorite celebrity that'll just sit there and sign autographs until the line is completely empty. And that's exactly how these guys are. They're more than willing to sit back and answer your questions and help out because they actually do view a part of what they're doing out there is helping save lives of fellow officers throughout the U.S.
And it's great because these are some of the best shooters. But you're right. I've seen people come in. There's a young lady who came in, Sheriff's Department down south. I can't remember. It was her first time there. She came by herself, got in the car and came, and she ended up winning something that year. But it's open from, you got guys from the Border Patrol and these big teams, and you got smaller teams and states and everything. But the best thing is, it's like 300, 400, 500 of cops all getting together and hanging out. So you got cop attitude, cop stories from breakfast on up. It's great. It's just it's a really interesting event.
I like the fact too that you can just come and watch it. Anyone in the area, you can they love people to come watch this. Everyone wants to show off their skills, and everyone's proud to do it. So if you're anywhere in the area, you should come by. You should watch this, and these guys, these men and women, devote their lives to protecting you. Give them a few minutes and appreciate their skills and appreciate their handiwork at what they do.